everyone. Today, the topic of our panel is decentralized AI. So we're going to try to demystify the AI concept, see how it works and why would we need it. And today I'm pleased to be joined by great panelists here, and I'm going to let them quickly introduce themselves and tell things about what they're currently working on. Luki, please.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Why don't you introduce yourself first?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So I'm working at Aura Protocol, and I'm a DevRel. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring AI on chain. We have this product AI Oracle, and if you want to build some AI-powered dApps, you can use our products. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, you're welcome. Hello, everybody. My name is Luki. I am the head of ecosystem and strategy at Chainbase. What Chainbase does is we provide the new data stack for data-driven dApps and also AI initiatives. So what does that mean, right? We have all those data on different blockchains. Each blockchain is its own island. You have a different way to index, you have a different way to decode those data. And now we have all those AI projects coming up. We need those data to feed their models. So what Chainbase does is we provide this data processing standards and we open sourced it. We invite developers and also data scientists to create those framework so that you can fetch the data you need from all different blockchains. And backstage, we just talk about chain abstraction, etc. We want to make sure the user experience, the developer experience is up to the maximum level. So that's what we're here to do, is to help developers to get those on-chain data that's specific for the parameters they set for the models and projects.
Hi,
Joseph.
I'm Josip Blach. I'm the co-founder of ICP Hub Bulgaria. We are a regional hub here in Bulgaria, as well as the Balkan region, when it comes to ICP, which is an L1 blockchain developed by the Definity Foundation. And on top of that, I'm also a head of innovation and creative at Resolute, which is a Web3 marketing agency working with a lot of projects within the AI deepen space.
Hey everyone, I'm Lawrence from Extropy. We're a consultancy. We provide auditing and education, so I spend a lot of my time explaining concepts such as zero-knowledge proofs and ZKML to people. So yeah, that's going to be my contribution today.
Thank you very much, everyone. So first, let's start by seeing what does decentralized AI mean to all of you. We can start from Luki.
Okay, first of all, I just saw myself on the monitor. I didn't realize my big blanket is that big on my neck. It kind of distracts me from everything here. But it's really cold here in Sofia for some reason. Everyone was telling me October is actually a really beautiful weather. And I believe so, and I agree, but it's just a little cold in the morning and at night. Anyways, so that's a pivot.
In Balkans, it's a little bit colder.
Yeah, it's a pivot. I came here from Greece, so I got a little spoiled by the sunshine over there. Anyways, decentralized AI. I will just briefly touch base a little bit of what I know, and then I will pass on to the rest of the panelists. So when we're talking about AI, it's artificial intelligence, right? But what really are the components for AI? We have compute, we have model, we have data. And when we're talking about decentralized AI, that means we decentralize compute, model, and data. And for each three of them, it has development, it has training, and it has deployment. So combine all together, 6 elements or 9 elements, however you calculate it, we have to decentralize all of them. Is that feasible? But this is what we're aiming to do, is to, at least from one piece to another, computation. Now we have decentralized computation projects, right? And we have models. We have all those marketplaces for different models. Hugging Face, if you get on Hugging Face, there's 1 million of open source models. Of course, they all are optimized or forked from another model that has been trained from those big giant companies. And then we have decentralized data. So decentralized data, we have those data DAOs. They get voluntarily provided, like people will provide data voluntarily, like the Twitter data or Reddit data, those are Web2 data. And also we have the Web3 data, which is on-chain data. So all those things, we have to put them together to achieve the concept of decentralized AI. So that's in my opinion, it's something that we're driving towards too. But to think about decentralize every single component of what I just mentioned, it probably is going to be a very interesting journey for all of us.
Okay, thank you for that. So you think that we should decentralize every layer of this whole process, right?
If we're talking about decentralized AI, we have 3 components, as I mentioned. That means every single layer needs to be decentralized. And there's also a reason behind every layer being decentralized. So like the data layer, decentralized, why? Because then we have everyone who has a slice of the pie, that this is my data self-sovereignty. I govern this data, I get incentivized for providing it.
Yep.
Computation, I provide this resource, I need to get incentivized. So there are different reasons behind the decentralization of the AI.
Thank you very much, Luki. We'll touch more on that later. Josip, what's your take on that?
Yes, I must say I agree with what Luca was saying as well. In terms of the currently from if you're looking at it from the centralized standpoint, so let's take, for example, OpenAI or something like that. It's currently a black box of how the data is being collected, how is it being trained, and it's taking the data from the internet. It's taking the data that we've posted on the internet all across the space, and then it's basically training the model based on that data. And when I say in terms of the decentralized AI, what do I mean by it? Is I like to know where my data is going for, who has it, if that data is private, if my information will not get leaked, and then also on top of that, enabling users to have, not users, enabling essentially that there's no single point of failure, meaning we decentralize the computing around the AI and enable them to get rewarded for those actions, as Luke stated afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much. Lawrence?
Yeah, similar ideas, I guess. As a Web3 OG, I guess I've been really excited about decentralization for a long time. I want all my systems to be decentralized. So I would want, all the areas of AI to be decentralized if possible. I think the way that's achieved is going to be different for the different areas, and it will mean different things. But one of the most important things for me for decentralization is the idea that I can have control over my data or over my assets. And so particularly with AI and the fact that there's going to be this huge amount of data very widely used, I want to be able to control my part of that as much as possible.
Thank you. So we just mentioned that we want to decentralize different components of AI, and also we mentioned identity and privacy of the data, and ownership of that data, right? So, but I really want to clarify, why do we want it to be decentralized? So we just don't want to decentralize just to be decentralized. We really want to have some good use cases. So can we think about some problems or maybe some consumer-facing use cases that you can think of? What do you guys think? Where can we use this technology?
Yeah, there are a lot of places that we can use the technology, but healthcare is one of them. But there's a lot of regulation around it, right? So there's a report showing on Google search, 40% of Google search is health related. People asking about what happened to my headache or things like that. So 40% of our search is about health. That means we need people to understand that this is amount of data that it needs to be trained. So if I have something going on with my arm, I want to do this search, and because of all the data that's generated, that can give me some sort of information regarding what's going on. But when we talk about decentralization, it's user data, and it's the data that I need specifically for myself. So the things that they detected from you probably does not apply to me. And that's why we're talking about decentralization, because when we're talking about data control, as you guys mentioned, this amount of data, it's mine, and we use this model to train my specific data AI agents. So if I have something going on that actually related to the case that only applies to me. So that's what the decentralization is about. Is it goes to specific individual, it goes to specific use case. All the data that's been trained, it's not biased. All the data that's been trained, that's used and necessary for the individual who need that data, who need a model to be trained.
Okay, so if I understood, each user can have its own specialized AI agents trained on their specific data, right? And also in some use cases, we don't want to expose that data publicly in healthcare or some other confidential areas.
Especially when we're talking about, now we use ChatGPT to get answers, but the thing is, you don't really know where the data comes from, the data that used to train ChatGPT. And to be honest with you, I was reading some reports regarding the data, the open source data. When the data is open, most of them have already been used. So there's a convergence of models having the same result because they all use the same data to train the model. So then there's like another layer of a synthetic data, and et cetera. Adobe actually just announced their, I think the video generating video product, and they're saying that they did not use any of the user data to train that specific AI model or the product. So they say they only use Midjourney's results to train their data. So if that's the truth, then that means now companies are thinking about creative ways to use the synthetic data to train the models. So is that something that wouldn't be biased in the future? Is that something that actually will help our human beings, because it's a synthetic data, it's not the real user data. So by thinking about using the real data, the user data, we can control the data to train the models, then the result will be much better and more applicable for our daily use.
Okay, thank you very much. And what about, can we somehow incentivize that data for these processes, like for training, for other components of AI? What do you think, Josip?
Yes, of course. I mean, there's one very good use case which we've also touched before, especially when it comes to the healthcare. Let's say that you have, so there's a couple of diseases which are uncurable, and there hasn't been a cure for them currently, which was found. But let's say that there's a big research center somewhere happening, whatever the country there is, and all the people who have that particular disease can voluntarily give that data to that research, get, of course, rewarded for it, but also they have the possibility for that data to cure the disease in the long run. And I think that's one of the things where we're slowly getting there in terms of the decentralization, especially when you think about it, and that data which they provide is the privacy. It's sort of very much private because it's their own sort of information that they're putting out towards that research, right? So I'm not sure if I answered the question. I believe you mentioned something else in terms of the incentivization. Yes. So currently, as I said before, the models which are currently being used to, the ChatGPT, everything, there's no incentivization from the user's perspective. They've taken the data from the users from all around the world, and they haven't given them any incentivization. Similar to be said, like if you were a beta tester at Facebook, which is a sort of a back in 2008, you haven't gotten any sort of a reward for being the beta tester in that. Whereas here, when we're talking about decentralized AI, you can get rewarded for allocating your computing power, allocating the resources on that sort of a front, but then also allocating the data, your own data, and getting rewarded for that. Be that if you're an artist, whatever it is, it applies to everything, right?
Thank you very much. So Yeah, another thing at Aura specifically we focus on is not on that data layer, but more on the execution layer. So if you want to use this AI inference in your smart contracts and you want to use it in verifiable and trustless way, you have few choices. Like you can execute this AI algorithms completely on chain. But that is really expensive. You will spend a lot of gas, and it's usually not feasible. So the other option is to execute it off-chain, and then you need somehow to prove to the on-chain context that execution is actually correct, and that specific models executed that, right? So that's the problem we're trying to tackle at Aura. And there's many teams in the industry have different approaches to that. They try to use different cryptographic methods. I would love to touch on these different approaches. And maybe Lawrence, you can touch on some of them. What are some of the ways that we can actually verify this off-chain AI inference to the smart contracts?
Yeah, I think that's a very important aspect. I mean, I really like the privacy, and I think that's important. But also, we want to be able to verify that these models are actually working correctly, particularly because we do find that there's bias sometimes, and we need to make sure that the inference stage is working correctly. So how can we do that? Well, some technologies that have been used, we have FHE, fully homomorphic encryption, which allows us, this is very good for data processing generally. This allows us to do operations on encrypted data. So you then have the confidence that your data is not going to be understood. You can outsource your data to be processed, and you know it's encrypted, so that gives you the confidence there. Other techniques, the one I know best, I guess, is ZKML. So this is taking zero-knowledge proofs and then using those with machine learning. So zero-knowledge proofs provide verifiable computation, and so they can show that a particular computation was done correctly. And in this case, a machine learning inference, for example. It also allows private inputs to computation. So that's an extra advantage. But really, I think we're focusing on the verifiable aspect. And then a nice sort of, not exactly a twist on that, but another alternative to that is the OPML side, the optimistic machine learning, where they're assuming that the machine learning has been done correctly, but then they provide economic guarantees via blockchain to give the opportunity to do resolution if something is found to be incorrect. So those are some of the sort of cryptographic sides. We also have trusted execution environments as a hardware solution. I'm personally perhaps a little bit more skeptical about those. I mean, they're good, I suppose, in that they're a hardware solution, so they can be available. But we do then have to trust the hardware provider that there's no backdoor, and I think you probably know there have been exceptions to that. And also, they only work properly. In that actual environment, they're only saying there's security within that environment, so they're not making guarantees about anything outside of that. So a quick rundown there of some of the techniques. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of talk about trusted execution environments these days. It obviously has some pros and cons, each of these approaches. And yeah, I'm excited to see where will it end up.
I just want to mention about the incentivization part. I think Aura actually has done a really good job regarding the IMO, which I'm a big fan of. The initial model.
Initial model offering.
Yeah, exactly. So that actually incentivizes the models, incentivize the model providers. If you train the model and you list it on Aura, you actually get incentivized. Is that?
Yes, that's correct. So we have this offering called Initial Model Offering. And what it allows you to do is, if you're developing open source AI model, you can kind of do some incentivization around it to reward contributors, community around your AI model. And then if you integrate it in AI Oracle, and many decentralized applications actually use your model, you can have the full loop. Like you have a constant development, and then from the usage of this, from the on-chain usage, all of these token holders get rewarded. So that's kind of, we believe that the future of AI should be open sourced. As we've seen rapid development in the space, AI is shaping the human future, and we want to make sure that we do it correctly, right? So we can touch also on the regulation side of things.
Yeah, that's also interesting that because the model that you can get incentivized, then what about the people who provide the data to train the model? How are they going to get incentivized? You know, I think there are so many different layers when we talk about incentivization, even though Lawrence was touching based on like privacy and stuff like that, all those technology that we can integrate with the model training, integrate into the technology. But like coming to incentivization, there are so many different layers of contributors that we have to figure out how the incentivization really goes, right?
And what about user experience? Like, what do you think about these big tech solutions and opposed to some open source decentralized solutions that we're proposing? Like, do you think regarding, first of all, who will be the users? Will it be more user-centric, or do you think it's more on infrastructure level? And what do you think are some user experience drawbacks there? And do you have any?
So you can go. Okay, I'll just be really fast about a couple of things that I noticed when I was working with the projects or training models, or even Chainbase, we train our own model, which is called a CL World model. I mentioned earlier about 3 components of AI: model, compute, and data. So we talked about data, decentralized data, which is easy to understand, but what about computation? I would just touch base on that lightly. Is we tried different decentralized computation projects out there, and there's some really good ones. If you guys search Twitter, there's some really good ones out there. Raised a lot of money, and by saying that it's decentralized, we give it a try. But when you're training a model, that decentralization, it does not work. Well, it works very, very poorly compared to centralized computing system. So if one node is not communicating with another node, the whole model is failing. Like, it needs to be in the same place. The neural network needs to be together in order to train model. I can't think of the power resource that you need to train ChatGPT, but by 2026, I think I saw it was like up to $5 to $6 billion just to train the model. So that means if OpenAI, they just raised $6 billion for the fine-tuning, for the training, and that's centralized, that's closed source. And for open source and decentralized, think about all those nodes are all scattered into different places. And then we'll have to think about the regulation that we'll be touching base later on, is that how feasible it is for us to decentralize the compute power to train model. So that's one thing that I wanted to talk about too, is the user experience. So when we talk about AWS, it's a centralized, it's closed source, but they give you all those plug and play. You click, and this is the parameter you need in order to do something. But with open source right now, Hugging Face, you get on the GitHub, Hugging Face, and you try to understand the code, you try to understand how to integrate. You have to have the knowledge in order to use what they have offered. So I think, as I mentioned, it's interesting. It's a long journey for all of us, but at least this is a good initiative for us to think about how to improve the user experience.
Yep.
I mean, I must say that I agree on this entirely as well, because, you know, when you have sort of graphics cards running in SLI bridges on big farms, it's definitely going to be much more performant when you on that front rather than when you decentralize them. But also on one other thing, I mean, crypto in general, crypto started from the trenches, right? And it was not built with UX in mind. It was built by us who understand it. And then when the new sort of people get onboarded, it's very much hard for them. I'm talking this from sort of a user perspective. It's very much hard for them to even realize what's happening, which chain they're on, how do they need to bridge. I'm deviating a bit, but there's new narratives like chain abstraction coming out, which essentially abstracts all that in the backend, and user doesn't need to necessarily know. He can know, but it doesn't need to be aware of what's fully happening in the background. As the same case is as the end user doesn't know what's happening in the background of OpenAI. Difference being here that this is decentralized, and you're able to see it if you're very interested into how does it work, right? So I think that when we push this sort of a chain abstraction narrative, which is coming out, I mean, it's not something which is here now, it will be in the future. And then when we sort of sort out some of the bottlenecks when it comes to computation side of things, I believe that we can do a very nice user experience in the next few years as the technology progresses. Because, I mean, if you know it, like first the graphical user interface, like which was in the 80s, it needed to get adopted like 7-8 years. It's not something that comes out immediately. So, but I'm very bullish in terms of this, so that we're gonna see it, and the user flow will be good, and the data will be private, and sort of a DAI will shape sort of the future of it.
Awesome. Lawrence, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I would echo those points. One thing I would say for the end users, I think there's always going to be an attraction towards the large centralized projects. The way that we can do something about that, I think, is if we do have incentivization, so the types of things you were saying around the medical data, that kind of thing will help move people away. But again, and also what you said about the user experience, Web3 has been fairly bad user experience, but I think things are improving, and perhaps this could be something that can then develop further and become something that can be used with AI as well, with the decentralized AI. I also wonder if the efforts that are going into DeepIn could also help here. The decentralized infrastructure will also feed into this and could help. And then and finally, one good point I think, reason for the decentralized approach, I think, is around the standardization. I think if we have very centralized projects that are leading things and pushing the debate in a certain direction, we run the risk of moving away from open standards. So if we can keep things decentralized, we can get good standards. I think we're going to be in a much better place.
Yeah. Totally agree. I mean, so far what we mentioned is on that data layer, we want to have ownership of the data as users. We want to be able to monetize that data. We also, in some cases, might keep it confidential, while also contributing to training of some AI agents. And then, in my view, we can also use blockchain as, if we have many specialized these AI agents, we can use blockchain as communication channel between these different AI agents. They're highly specialized in specific tasks. And I heard some people talking about the whole commerce network between these AI agents, and they're utilizing blockchain to verifiably transfer messages and communicate. And I'm definitely excited about the future of the AI. I think there's going to be some use cases, but I wanted to ask each of you: do you have one project in particular that's not your project, obviously, but that you're really excited about, like the approach they're taking? And yeah,
I actually wanted to go back to what you said about just AI and blockchain, the use case, user experience. One thing I would love to invite you guys to think about is, now we have ChatGPT, we have Midjourney, we have all those generative AI products out there, right? So now we have those like faking someone's voice. Those photos you generate, like Donald Trump doing something, it looks like it's real, but actually it's not. And you generate me saying something, it's not real, but it looks like it's real. So I think that's also what blockchain is really good at, is the transparency, tracing back to where the data is, tracing back to where the model is. So for that specific auditing of the social platform and what's out there, is that authentic, is that actually from that data source. I think that's what blockchain also has a big role in the future too.
Yeah, couldn't agree more on that.
And then for the project that I'm really bullish on, I think it's something to do with the DeepIn projects, for sure. I think with all those user data, federated learning about academic research and hospitals, about cars. So there's like from 2024 to 2029, just those 5 years, the data from just car companies will go up like 4 to 5 fold. So the thing, like, from what I was reading, the information car companies has is way more than what ChatGPT has used for training. So in the future, there are a lot of information, those edge nodes, the DeepIn projects, healthcare projects, they can be integrated with those blockchain like user data. I think I'm super bullish on that. And with federated learning and incentivization of using data, and also combining with the different kind of models, and I think like different layers all together, it's gonna make the whole landscape of AI and crypto big.
Thank you very much. Josip, is there one thing that you're really interested in?
I mean, in terms of the DeepIn side of things, I'm also very bullish on that particular behalf. Especially, I was very big into the node sales, and I'm trying to figure. The time will tell how will this sort of progress in the future, but I think that it's going very good. But on some of the projects, I'm very much, when it comes to like fully Web3 side of space, there's AI agents which enable you to do your own meme coins. You provide the liquidity to it. They create a Twitter profile. They have their own, the entire pipeline of it, and you're able to do certain things. I've tested a couple of them, and this is sort of the approach that I'm currently playing around with. It's nothing like revolutionary, but it's a very fun and entertaining way to see how it works and what are potential possibilities later down the line. So yeah, those, and I believe that there was, I just followed it a bit, but I saw that there's a rogue AI on Twitter, and that Andreessen Horowitz put up, I believe it was 50K in Bitcoin to that AI, and now it's creating its own meme coin, and potentially it's gonna rug. So there's a lot of things happening over there.
Yep. Awesome, Lawrence. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting areas is the AI agent area. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. So I don't have a particular project. I'll just say that that area in general. So on the DeFi side, well, that's sort of taking arbitrage bots to the next level, and there's lots going on there. There's all sorts of marketplaces so that you can sell your bots or your agents, etc. But one area that I like, and this came from Web3, and particularly on the game side, is the idea of autonomous worlds, and this really does excite me. I like the idea that you can create these worlds and they can evolve independently. And I think if you're doing that, then you need to know that the agents involved in these are operating correctly. They're working according to the rules that they claim to be following, and that's where we can do some verifiable. We can check the verifiable aspect of the computation. So yeah, that's the area that I think that excites me most. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're getting close to the end of the panel, so I definitely want to engage with the audience as well. So if anybody has any questions for the panelists, we can take a few of them and continue this discussion. So yeah, do we have any questions? There is one.
So hi, it's great conversation. What do you think is one thing that only decentralized AI will do, and centralized AI will not be able to do?
Amazing question. Do you have any thoughts?
So could you repeat the question?
So yeah, the question was, what would be one thing that only decentralized AI can achieve and centralized solution cannot? So basically, the core question of the whole discussion, I think. Do you have like a clear view in your mind, maybe, or some direction?
So on a general level, if it becomes too centralized, then they're going to dictate the large players are going to dictate where this area is going, and potentially that we as the end users we could potentially lose out there. So I think that's one of the main reasons we want decentralized AI, is so that we can have more of a say and more impact in the direction things are going.
So yeah, I can maybe add on this as well. So from Aura perspective, what we're trying to achieve is this. You can have these use cases where you need to keep decentralization, like build fully trustless applications on blockchain, and you don't want to rely on these centralized points of trust. Like if you don't want to trust that ChatGPT provided you the correct answer, but instead you want to have verifiable flow to verify that that the computation is correct on the provided data. And also touching back on this data part of our talk, also you want to have data integrity. And as Luki mentioned, I think in the future, as we will have more and more data available on the internet specifically, blockchain will be like a source of truth of the information. So I believe that it will be very important to keep that truth on this fully replicated databases and use that as a starting point.
I think just to visualize this, we're now training a model, right? And we need every one of you in the room provide specific data to train this model. It's very transparent. You know what data we use, you know what model we use, and you know what the result is. But this is a decentralized way. It's very transparent. The result that's trained by the model, because of the data that's provided by everyone here, is it's not biased. Because everyone has the consensus that we're providing this data for this model training. But if it's a closed source, if it's centralized, the data, you don't even know what data I used to train this model. I maybe just use this group or that group. So the result, it could be biased, even though it's not intentional, but the result could be biased. So that's the difference. Well, in my opinion, it's one of the differences of the AI decentralized versus the centralized. Is decentralized, first of all, you get that slice of a pie. You provide your data, you get incentivized. Second, there's a transparency, and the result of the model, the result of the model is not biased. Everyone knows where the data comes, and everyone knows what the resources is, so that it does not give you the answer that specifically they want you to know. It's actually the answer that you.
Out of all the different ways to achieve verifiable computing, I think that ZKML has the higher trust assumptions. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when do you think it will be fast enough and cheap enough to implement it, more massively?
Thank you for that. Yeah, so ZKML, I think along with many of the other approaches, does suffer from the fact that the performance is not as fast as if we're not using verifiable computation. But there have been a number of breakthroughs, and the cryptography is advancing all the time, and people are finding ways to fit that cryptography to machine learning in better ways all the time. And so there was a breakthrough about 6 months ago from Modulus Labs, where they managed to verify the ChatGPT-2, which was something which is seen as a breakthrough because it had a billion weights, a billion parameters in the model. And so that was a sort of nice threshold to pass. And they managed to do that. It took 90 hours to create the proof of the computation, but still it was something that was achievable. And so I'm quite bullish about that. I think we're moving forward. And yeah, in the next few years, we're going to see the everyday sort of ChatGPT applications being verifiable as well. Thank you.